Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video we're going to be taking a look at a new superhero game by a fellow content creator, Caverna do Lekkis. The game is Heroes Ascension. Let's take a look. And here it is, Heroes Ascension, like I say, by fellow creator Caverna do Lekkis. Now, Heroes Ascension is a little bit different in that you are going to be playing as a novice or new superhero who isn't known of yet, completely fresh. And in this game, you're trying to develop your reputation to become better known, to become a true superhero. So this does focus on a new hero as they begin their career. Now, I need to make things very clear at the beginning. This is a game with a definite end. You are going to be increasing your reputation to a certain point where the game will finish. And this is due in part to the game's design, which is focused on something else that we have featured on the channel, Infaernum. So this game does actually use the license from Infaernum. It uses the same mechanics, but actually uses them in a very clever refocus. Let me put it this way: if you're aware of Infaernum, if you've watched my videos on Infaernum, if you've played Infaernum, you will be able to play this with absolutely no problems whatsoever. They share mechanics, but Heroes Ascension uses them in a slightly different way, or in some cases a very different way. But it feels very much like its parent game. Now, despite Heroes Ascension being based on Infaernum by Caio Romero, Campfire Studio, and also from, of course, Mind's Vision, you don't need Infaernum to play this game. This is a fully enclosed, a fully equipped game, very small in nature. It's, I think it's been designed as a zine, so sort of minimum pages can be printed out as a booklet. I think it has about 30 pages, and everything you need is in here. Heroes Ascension is a license-less superhero game where you can create anything and anyone. It does use, as I mentioned just now, certain mechanics from Infaernum, including the 6 factor. Now, in Infaernum, it's a game about the apocalypse, the end of days, and it basically gives you kind of six or 7 days to kind of escape, to find a safe haven. Heroes Ascension takes that 6 element, but translates that into your reputation. So you're trying to raise your reputation from a starting value of 1, where you're completely unknown, up to a reputation of 6, where people now know you and you are an established hero. And the way that works is that every time you do a mission, as long as it's successful, your reputation can go up. Now, to play this game, you're going to need, of course, your standard pencil and eraser. You are going to need 3 6-sided dice. Having different colors may help you with some of the tables, because you'll be rolling sort of D6 versus D6. So it's easy to identify which one will be the X, which one will be the Y kind of thing. So just 3 D6s. You are also going to need a character sheet. Now, with the game, with the PDF, I'll put all the links down below. You will also get given a selection of different character sheets. So you'll have, I don't know whether this will fit on the camera there. Okay, so you'll have this sheet here where you've got 4 small character sheets on one sheet. You will also get a file which gives you slightly larger sort of A5 size character sheets, 2 per page. And the one that we'll be using is this one here, where you have your character sheet and a sort of quick reference sheet attached to it. Very, very useful. And you can see from here, the character sheet is very simple because this game is very simple. In terms of your character details, there's not a lot to keep track of. In terms of the game itself, there's not a lot to keep track of. However, like Infaernum, this is very much a narrative style game. And it does require a fair amount of creative input from the players. I say players because this is solo or co-op in nature. I mean, I suppose you could have a game master running the game. Let's have a quick look through and I'll explain how the game works. Then we'll make a character and play through maybe a sample mission. So, it's about 30 pages. I haven't printed all the pages because I think there's a bunch of sort of blank pages in here. But it's about 30 pages. You've got a good contents page. There's not a lot in here, as I've said, and every one is highlighted very clearly. You've got the license requirement down here from Campfire Studios. First of all, you're given a bit of introduction about the game, what I've basically been saying just now. You're going to create missions, choices and achievements. You're going to increase your reputation doing these missions. You can play solo or co-op. And then we come to the rules straight away. Now, the rules, again, is very much based on what we had in Infaernum. There are 3 basic rules to the game and 3 ways to use the dice. First of all, you can use 1d6 or 1 6-sided dice for an oracle. So in the game, as you're playing through the missions, you may have questions. And the oracle allows you to answer those questions in a sort of yes or no format, so a closed question format. You also have the option, if you think the answer will be more yes rather than no, you could give it a +1. If you think the answer maybe has a higher chance of a no, you can give it a -1, for example. But that's the first kind of rule, the first way we use the dice, the oracle, 1d6. Second, we have the action and theme, and that's where you're going to be using 2 6-sided dice. Again, very similar to what was in Infaernum. So here, this is where you basically generate an action and a theme keyword, 2 keywords, and those can be used to help you understand what's happening, to prompt you to create ideas, how to inspire scenes, how to create mission hooks, how to understand what's happening. You can use these tables for a number of things to kind of help push you to understand what's going on. And then the third way is, guess what? 3d6. And these are the actions. And again, very, very similar to what we find in Infaernum. Now, I should point out that I printed out the rules version 1. There has been an update. I think the rules are now version 1.1. And all it is, it's a couple of sentences added to this page here, page 8. So there's a little bit extra added in here. I've just written it in rather than printing out the thing again, yeah? So the action test, you're going to be rolling 3 dice. And you have to read the dice individually, okay? And what you roll on these dice basically tells you what happens when you attempt an action. So it says here, whenever your hero attempts something with inherent risk, so for example, things like combat, things like athletic abilities, maybe things such as trying to persuade somebody to help you, trying to persuade the police that you're not a villain, that you're not a gang member or something, yeah? You'll be rolling 3 6-sided dice. So for example, oh well, no ones. We get a 2, a 3 and a 6. Now, reading those individually, you then see what is going to be the result and the narrative meaning in terms of what happens for this action. If you roll a 1, it's a complication or a negative consequence. So things go bad, okay? And it's a potential fail, yeah? If you roll a 2 or a 3, it's a neutral result or an omen. So essentially, these can be thought of as being mainly for narrative, but they could also maybe help you to generate story for other results. Yeah. A 4 or a 5 means a success or a positive advancement. And a 6 means something incredible happened. So in Infaernum, I think a 1 represented a doom. Things went badly wrong and you had to take, what were they called? Torments, I think they were called, which then hindered you later on. And a 6 was a miracle where you could do things such as healing torments or using your blessing and things like that. In this game, it's a little bit different because it's purely narrative. But a 6 is definitely very useful. A 1s are not. Now, the extra little bits that are added in the new version of the rules, version 1.1, is if what you're attempting relates to your power or skill, a roll of 6 cancels out a roll of 1 in that roll. If what you're attempting relates to your weakness, each roll of 1 cancels out 1 roll of 6. So again, very, very similar to what happens in Infaernum, but applied in a different way here. Then down here we've got an example. Your hero tries to stop a runaway car. You roll 3d6, and in this case you get a 1, a 4 and a 6. A 1, so a complication or negative consequence. The car hits something and sparks dangerously. That's what you could interpret that result as. The 4, you manage to stop the driver because a 4 is a success. And a 6, a witness records everything. It helps your reputation grow. A 6 is something incredible. Now, I don't think rolling a 6 allows you to get a +1 reputation boost. Again, I'll talk about the reputation a little bit later. But maybe it can help you if the possibility of increasing your reputation is in question. Maybe this can help to push you towards the positive in some way. So that's what you'll be doing for basic action tests. Now, there are also things called challenges, where something is maybe a bit tougher than normal. Maybe you're up against the sort of major villain or the big boss or your nemesis. For challenges, it's going to require multiple successes to overcome. And these should be used again when you're facing something which is above and beyond a simple success to overcome, yeah? And it gives you some examples in terms of what certain challenges could be and how many successes you would need to overcome them. It's all given here in examples. You're also given an example and told step by step in terms of how to overcome these challenges or how to approach these challenges. Again, it's all very, very clear. And if, like I say, if you played Infaernum, it's easy because you've done it all before. Fate points. You start the game with 3 fate points. And then at the start of every mission, you do also start with 3 fate points. Fate points can be used a number of ways. Think of them as luck or courage or miracles. You can use 1 fate point to re-roll 1 die, 1 fate point to ignore the damage from a roll of 1. Again, I'll come to that in a second. 1 fate point to recover 2 points in a single resistance. Again, I'll talk about that in a second. And 2 fate points to add +2 to an action test. So your dice you can increase the value of your dice. Now, fate points, they're very useful, but I feel that they could be overpowered in certain circumstances, because down here it says you can recover 1 fate point, maximum of 3, and it gives you some examples here in terms of how you can regain fate points during a mission. I haven't been doing that because, again, I feel that this could potentially overpower your character. So I've been playing it so that I get 3 fate points per mission. That's it. But again, you do you. Right, now we come to this thing called resistances, and this is a measure of damage that your character takes. Because we've all seen the movies and we've all read the comics where the superhero gets injured or damaged or stressed out, all these things that hinder them. Well, the resistance element of the game brings that in a very simple mechanism. Every time that you roll a 1 on an action test, something goes wrong and you've got to take 1 point of resistance damage. You've got 3 different types. You've got body, which is physical, mind, which is mental, and bond, which could be thought of as social or emotional. This could link up with possibly allies, relationships, things like that, yeah? And you assign where you take the damage based on the narrative and the mission that you're currently doing. So if somebody's shooting a gun at you, chances are it's going to be physical damage. And like I say, in the comics and in the movies, you always see the heroes get damaged, get beaten, get stressed. But at the end, you know, they're heroes in the end, they come through. Well, not necessarily in this game, because you start with 3 points in each resistance. Okay? When any of them reaches 0, greater consequences occur. What does that mean? Well, if you look for body, for example, if you end up with a 0 in your body resistance, it says here 0'd, you pass out, become incapacitated, or are captured. So having one of your resistances run out, go down to 0, it adds that element to the story where the hero is in really dire straits. Up, insert dirty word, creek or alley. If your mind goes down to 0, you suffer emotional collapse, panic, or visions. If your bond goes down to 0, you feel isolated, lose support, or question your mission. Possibly become a supervillain. Now, there are ways to recover resistances by using fate points, or maybe by adding in a certain element of narrative to the story to help you when you really are in a life and death situation. But it's a nice, simple way to measure how superheroes get beaten beyond human limitations and yet can still come back and win the day. Okay, reputation. So this is kind of the focus of the game progression. You start with a value of 1. That represents you as a novice, as kind of unknown. When you get to 6, your name is known, your mission is recognized, and your place among the great heroes is assured. So in a perfect situation, you will be doing 6 missions. No, 6 missions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. I mean, it depends how you read this. I mean, I read this as you're having to do 6 missions. Yeah, because let's fast forward a little bit. The missions are, you're rolling for random elements for the mission in terms of the background, the story. Yeah? But you've got 1 set of tables for reputation 1 to 2, 1 set of tables for 3 to 4 reputation, and 1 set of tables for reputation 5 to 6. So this is making me think that when you reach reputation 6, you have 1 final mission to do, yeah, before you stop the game. But reading it here, it says, upon reaching reputation 6, you achieve your ultimate goal, your name is known, etc., etc. So, I don't know, maybe you could read it so that when you get to reputation 6, the game is over. But I think you should do an extra mission. Yeah, I recommend doing a final mission when you achieve reputation level 6 and then stopping after that final mission. I mean, you could keep playing, but the game really does better suit stopping at level 6. I think that's how it's been designed. And again, it sort of ties in with the way that Infaernum uses that 6 days to the apocalypse kind of thing. Here you got sort of 6 levels of reputation. I mean, what I would probably do is use this as a way of crafting an intricate, well-detailed background for a superhero in another game. So let's say, for example, you know that in a few weeks you're going to be starting a game of Champions, maybe Marvel superheroes, okay, and maybe you want to understand your character a little bit better, and maybe you're creating a new character. You're not using one of the sort of pre-generated or one of the famous superheroes. You're creating your own superhero. This game would be a very good way of creating a character for those games, because here you're going to be generating right from the novice right up to the point where you're very well known, and in doing so you're playing a game, you're having fun, and then when you come to play, like I mentioned just now, maybe Marvel superheroes, for example, you've got your character ready and you already have that background based on the missions that you've played in this game. That's one way that I can see this game really, really standing out and maybe appealing to a lot of people. Reputation determines the level of the missions. I gave you a quick show there, but it also affects how NPCs are going to work with you, because your reputation and your narrative is an element in the game. But again, it's the narrative element of the game, not necessarily in terms of the mechanics, but in terms of when you are trying to, like I say, stop the police from shooting you, asking for help from civilians, etc. You have to test your reputation. You roll a d6, you compare it to your current reputation. If the roll is less than your reputation, you're recognized and people may help you. If the result is equal or greater than your reputation, you're ignored, mistaken for an ordinary person, or even suspected. So your reputation is more than just a mission generating value. It can also be used in the game instead of maybe the oracle. Something that's more relevant to who you are and how well known you are. Yeah. Hero creation is very simple. You're basically rolling 4 things, and from those you are then going to create a background, create a name, create a costume for your character. You'll be rolling for origin. How did you get your powers? D6. Your power. What's your special ability? Again, D6. Skill, something you do well even without your powers, and a weakness. So each of these is a simple D6 roll, but they are basic. Basic in such a way that you can then expand them in many different ways. For example, if you roll, origin, maybe you roll up mutation. How did your mutation come about? Is it something similar or akin to the X-Men? Or is it something a bit more nefarious in nature? Yeah? For your power, maybe you rolled up energy. What energy? I mean, are you going to choose a specific type of energy? Or is it going to be something a bit more complex? In terms of your skill, maybe you roll up investigation. Does that mean that you're a police officer, a PI? Yeah? How does that come into the story? And there are many ways for you to interpret these things that you're going to be rolling up. After that, you're ready to start playing. There really isn't a lot of prep work for this game, but there will be a lot of work from you required to generate the story as we go, because the game will give you prompts, but it's up to you to take those prompts and create the game. Again, very similar to what we saw with, its big brother or its father, yeah? Infaernum. Right, creating missions, again, very, very simple. What you'll be doing is you'll be rolling, depending on your reputation, you'll be rolling for motive, action, and threat. Now, the missions or the possibilities for reputation 1 or 2 is going to be simple. It says here, simpler missions related to daily city life, minor crimes, and initial challenges. Reputation 3 or 4, more risky, involving organizations and rising villains. Reputation 5 or 6, major crisis, global threats, decisions that can change the fate of the world. So as you evolve as a superhero, your missions are also going to evolve with you. Okay, you can create villains using the hero creation tables, but again, interpreting the results a different way. And you can also use the action and theme tables to inspire the themes. To inspire the scenes. So again, we go back here. You got these 2 tables here where you'll be rolling a 2d6. Maybe you can say, okay, red and blue, red, blue. We got a 3, 2. Create, and the theme, 4, 4. Corruption. So create corruption. So maybe in a certain scene in your mission, something's happening. Create corruption. Maybe there's some kind of toxic spill. Maybe there's some kind of plague. Maybe there's some kind of biological threat, for example. Also, at the back, there are some optional rules. Threat clocks, hero evolution, where your hero can improve. I'll probably be using that. I mean, I have been using that. NPC conversation, but there's also one here for city locations where you can roll up more detailed information about where the action's taking place. So that can also be used alongside the action and theme tables to really inspire the scenes that you're going to be playing through. Missions should, again, this is a recommendation. They should follow a sequence of 4 scenes. Scene 1 is the problem introduction. So this is where you prepare the scene, you roll up all the information about what's going on, who's involved, where it's happening. You can use the Oracle 1d6 or the Action and Theme 2d6 to help inspire you. Again, you can also use the optional city locations, again, to flavor it out. Scenes 2 and 3, actions and challenges, where your superhero gets involved and tries to solve whatever's happening. To be honest, I felt as I've played through this, as I've been learning the game and playing it before this video, I've had a few times where I've added more scenes at this stage because I felt that the story needed to be a little bit longer, needed to include a few more steps. So I've also had games where I've had scene 2, 3, 4, sometimes even scene 5 at the action and challenges step. And then the last scene should be the conclusion, where you have your outcome. It can be possibly where you meet the final villain, or where you round everything up and just find out the results, the rewards, or possibly the penalties if you failed in the mission. Again, don't forget, your resistances are very limited. Take too much damage, you could fail the mission. The book then gives you an example of character creation and also a Reputation 1 mission, which is given here. Again, very clear, goes through step by step, really helps to understand how to play the game. Even if you haven't played Infaernum, everything's in here to help you to understand. But please remember, this is a very narrative style RPG, okay? It's not going to give you a lot of guidance in terms of what to do and how to do it. The help is provided in the form of prompts, but it's up to you to use those prompts to create the story. Now, at the back of the book, you do have a rules summary, but like I say, there are these optional rules. A threat clock is like a timer that you can incorporate, possibly in one mission, possibly covering multiple missions. Hero evolution is a way for your hero to improve or evolve. It says here for every 2 levels of reputation, so levels 2, 4, and 6, you can roll a d6 to determine like an additional upgrade for your character. I have been using this. It has made the game more interesting. So you're not just stuck with the same superhero all the way through, even though this is kind of a short game. It does, again, add that little bit of character evolution. NPC conversations, I have used this at times where the mission and the narrative led me to maybe interact with NPCs to a certain degree. I have used this for that, but not every game, not every mission I've used this. City locations, again, has been something that I've been using a lot, just to add a little bit of flavor to where we're involved, the location at where we're playing the game. And that's it. It's a, like I say, it's a very small game, not necessarily in terms of in terms of pages, but also in terms of the game itself. It is very simple in nature, but you really need to apply your storytelling skills, your ability to interpret prompts. Again, like a number of games that I've featured on this channel. But it does bring something to the table that is different. It's not your normal superhero game. It's not kitted out with fully fledged, already famous heroes and supervillains. It doesn't suffer from having hundreds and hundreds of pages of rules mechanics, superpowers, skills. I mean, those are all fine and dandy, but sometimes you want something simpler, yeah, less. What's the word? Bloated. What else? I think after playing through this a number of times, I think there's one thing that is missing, or maybe something that I feel would have benefited inclusion, and that is a superhero name generator. Now, of course, it's going to be relevant to to things that you roll up. But I'm thinking that maybe as a missed opportunity for something that could be inserted in here. Again, it doesn't have to be anything complex or large in terms of its design, but something in here to generate a name would have been, I think, a positive addition to this, like a name generator. Yeah. What else? Another couple of things. As I was playing this, I was thinking in terms of how could some of the Infaernum supplements or expansions could be used with this. And I actually thought that there were a few of the supplements in Infaernum that could definitely be used with Heroes Ascension. The first is one that I used quite a lot when I did my Infaernum playthroughs. Again, I apologise for the shine, this is very glossy paper. The Chaos supplement was something that was very useful, and it does help to interpret narrative events that you'll be rolling. And I think that this could be used with very, very minimal adjustments within Heroes Ascension. So, for example, when you're making action rolls, where's the action rolls? And you roll a 2 or 3, a neutral, result, or omen. This Chaos expansion could very easily help you to generate what happens. The second thing is the Infernaculum. Oh, there we go. Infernaculum it's the expansion for Infaernum where they basically tell you how you can use a set of poker cards instead of dice. If the dice hate you, for example, you could always use a set of cards to help you to do the oracle, to do the sort of action and themes, and also to do the action tests. So this is, again, another one of the supplements for Infaernum that I think could very easily be used in Ascension, Heroes Ascension. So this tells you how to use cards instead of dice. And the third one was actually, if I can find it, where is it? Where are you? Is it further up here? Should have marked it, shouldn't I? Here we go. Colossus. So if you've watched my Infaernum videos, you'll know that there were a couple of times in the game where I used the Colossus. And this supplement is used to represent huge, gargantuan sort of enemies. And I was thinking that this could possibly be used within Heroes Ascension to represent these sort of huge world-destroying enemies. Think along the lines of maybe Galactus. What would be a DC equivalent of Galactus? I don't know. I'm not very well versed in terms of the comics, but yeah, I was thinking that Colossus could also be used within Heroes Ascension to represent these huge world-ending sort of biblical-sized creatures. And again, very minimal work to sort of convert this into Heroes Ascension. So yeah, just some thoughts that I had as I was playing this and learning the game and everything. I was kind of thinking, you know what? Could we use some of those in here as well? And I think you can. So yeah, the Chaos, Colossus, and Infernaculum supplements I think could be used for this again, just to add a little bit of variety, a little bit of change. Right, I think this has gone on a bit longer than I expected, so I will end the overview here now. We'll do another video where we will create a character and play a sample mission. Okay, but this gives you a general overview of what the game is, how it works, how it plays. You can find it on drive-thru. I think it's also on itch, but I'll leave the link down below for the drive-thru because I might get a little bit of store credit out of it if you use the link below to order this. But yeah, it's highly recommended. Like I say, it's got some good bones. It's got some good bones, and it's definitely worth playing. It's very simple in nature, but you do have to be creative. You are going to have to create stories from prompts. It's also another game which I can definitely see used in schoolrooms or school classrooms. for things such as language classes or creativity classes, design classes. Games like this are very good to get students to apply their creative and innovative skills, yeah? And if you're working in a language subject, games like this can be very good to get students to apply the languages that they're going to be learning in a fun sort of you could do it cooperative as well, getting them to play together so that they can help to enhance each other's stories. So yeah, definitely worthy of getting, whether you're a teacher, a gamer, a player, whatever. Very, very useful. And as I mentioned earlier, I can definitely see this being used to develop a character for another system as well. Again, all the links will be down below in the description, and don't forget to like, subscribe, add some comments, ring the bell if you want to know when I upload videos. But yes, Heroes Ascension, very highly recommended. And I will see you in the next video where we're going to create a character and play a mission. Until then, take care, stay safe. Cheers.